I do think there's a risk if you're trying to build a lifestyle business, having a even medium-sized social media following is easily the best way to get to like $1 million a year business, make a few hundred grand a year. Like by far. If you're trying to go beyond that, I think sometimes it's one of those handicaps that prevents you. It's like you've got one golden goose laying golden eggs, but you can't make it reproduce. So you're either stuck there, or you got to go build a farm.
Hello and welcome to another episode of The Flywheel Effect. We're sponsored by Vital. Now, business partner Matt isn't here today, so I don't get to rib him by doing this completely differently than I do every time I'm on this. But as those regular listeners know, Vital is your home for business excellence. If you're a home integrator, if you're a commercial integrator, if you're luxury home services, the systems and services provided by Vital will help you operate your business more effectively, focus on your business as opposed to being stuck in it, and grow and become more profitable. So today, as I said, we don't have Matt, but we do have Parker Cox. Parker is an entrepreneur at heart. I could tell. He is a founder of Pavago. Did I pronounce it right? Parker,
Nailed it.
Pavago? Awesome. Which is a offshore company, a company that helps American small businesses hire offshore talent, which is definitely one of those big trends. He's also started a company that was a pretty high-level property management company as well. And so Parker has a lot of great insights, and I'm looking forward to getting into it. So Parker, how are you doing today?
Good, man. Busy as always. I think that's the price of entrepreneurship, but things are going really well. 26 has been great. How about you?
26 is, I can't believe Q1's almost done. Like, it's still in part of my brain still thinks it's 2025, but it's so far so good. I'm on the East Coast. I'm a skier. I think you probably enjoy the snow too, but you're in Boise. I think we had more snow than you did this year so far.
It's been a weird year, man. We've had snow on the ground one day this year, which is really rare for us. And it didn't even make it through the night. So yeah, it's been a weird year.
We've had snow on the ground here in New Jersey, not just up in the mountains in like Vermont, New England. But we've had snow on the ground in New Jersey consistently for almost the last month.
Wow.
And then everything in the mountains has gotten dumped. So I'm going to brag about my East Coast skiing when I'm given the opportunity.
You guys are having a better go of it than us over here this year. That's for sure.
Yeah. That's with a 1 in 25, I think is what it is. So, all right. So Parker, I think you have a pretty interesting story about how you ended up founding Pavago, right? I think what made you actually decide to form that agency?
Yeah, I mean, as most entrepreneurs, kind of an inauspicious start. So I had built a relatively large property management company on the West Coast. My business partner and I scaled it for a few years. We were one of the fastest growing companies in the country, especially when you consider no acquisitions. And we had scaled it for, living out of suitcases. We built 5 offices. We're traveling all the time and just like grinding to do so. And around 2023, we kind of hit a place where we had established a great company, also started to optimize it for cash flow instead of just running to the red, spending every dollar on marketing. And we were kind of faced with that question of like, do we keep trying to grow it? Because, you get to the 1,200 unit mark, especially in single family property management, and you've got another decade grind to get to the next level, the 10,000 door mark, or do we reposition? And when we were making that choice over the previous 6 months or so, I had made my first and then a few more offshore hires. And honestly, it was like a massive game changer for our business. We, being in a regulated industry, especially in a place like California, and having a big trust account, we were really nervous, and at least by our standards, late adopters to offshore. We tried it with a marketing hire first. We've been spending $50,000+ a month on ads and everything else. And we had a good agency. We were growing, but it was one of those things where they were in a bucket, right? It was like, well, we'll help you with your ads, but if you want a landing page, go find someone else. Or if you want to optimize your SEO, it's a standard thing. And not only that, it's like once it's up and running, we're paying these guys $5,000 to $7,000 a month for, if we were getting 5 hours a month, I'd be shocked. It's like, it was kind of just little tweaks here and there. We couldn't get the talent we needed onshore. we couldn't afford it. But within that
Right.
budget and the fact that they were kind of external to the risks of the operation of the business, we decided to hire a marketing hire globally. We did it ourselves. I didn't know about offshore recruiting companies at the time. I got over 1,000 applications. I did more than 70 interviews. It was a whole thing. It was crazy. And the guy we hired was great. He was so good. In fact, I mean, within a couple months, our CAC was down 30%. He identified that the ads were good, but it was landing page issues and website conversion rate optimization that needed work. He had the skill set to be able to at least guide projects there. So it was almost like hiring a CMO. I mean, I have a history degree. So it's like we
Yep.
needed the help, right? And we then were up to 6 in 6 months because it was kind of like, you have any friends? We started integrating into other parts of the business. I know you guys are around home services, so it was like maintenance, collections, those sorts of admin roles. And then friends started asking, "Hey, do you know anyone? Like, where are you getting these
Right.
people?" And for me,
Yeah.
it's
Everyone's always like, I mean, we have an offshore admin here at Vital, but I still know so many people that are scared of it, right? Or like unwilling to think, oh my God, what's going to happen to my business by hiring this person? But then you see someone that's successful and you want to have it too.
you're touching on, I think, something that's important is the blue chips. We call it the apocryphal AT&T customer service in 1997. The blue
Yep.
chip companies outsourced early and cheaply for really terrible performance.
Yeah.
And that's what all Americans have in their mind as offshore. Whereas that isn't it, right? What it is like super skilled professionals who make great money in their home country, but are a fifth of the cost of the equivalent talent here that is just out of reach for most small business owners.
Yeah. I think so. But then your friends were there and seeing the success you had, where they had that fear from 1997. I think that's a great analogy. And so you started hiring for them.
That was it. Yeah, it was, I mean, you're an entrepreneur. The light bulb goes off when enough people are
Yeah.
like, "Hey, can you help me?" And we were in that transition period. And, we thought this will just be a little side hustle. Our property management business was 95% passive at that point. And, it took a few months and then we kind of realized there was something more here. And so around the beginning of 2024, we've bootstrapped the professional service of recruiting to actually build out, and we're in the process of going live. We're rolling it out module by module, but basically a true hiring platform. And, that's where it was. And between Twitter and, the grind, we've just slowly expanded into a full on business.
That's awesome. Two takes. One, I still think people underestimate the value of Twitter or X can be to just tapping into such a huge national or international market. Like, I'm always shocked when I talk to other entrepreneurs that have had basically build their business and success, at least initially, on having a really great Twitter profile. Like it's amazing.
It is a phenomenal pathway to get from 0 to 1. I actually wrote a tweet or a post on this idea. I do think there's a risk if you're trying to build a lifestyle business, having a even medium-sized social media following is easily the best way to get to like $1 million a year business, make a few hundred grand a year, like by far. If you're trying to go beyond that, I think sometimes it's one of those handicaps that prevents you. It's like you've got one golden goose laying golden eggs, but you can't make it reproduce. So you're either stuck there, or you got to go build a farm.
Yeah. Yeah, but it still does that. That 0 to 1 is exactly the point. I mean, it's underappreciated for the people that are starting. Like people say, I'll get there when I'm ready. And they're like, no, you do it first. And then it just mints when you are ready.
100%, 100%. And the personal brand just has benefit, right?
Yep.
It is a high trust environment if you use your social media presence well.
Yeah, actually met a ton of great people on Twitter that have been valuable to me in business, and I've been valuable to them. And I think we're both part of Tribe, which is basically a online networking community group. I don't know, what do you want to call it? I mean, that's it, but it's more than that. I don't know. It's pretty great. I think that got built on X too.
100%, 100%. And I mean, me and my business partner joke there's like a BT and an AT in our business careers. He's not as active as I am, but before Twitter, after Twitter, because I think for a lot of entrepreneurs too, I mean, it's really lonely. And especially if you're in a small area, like for us, the reason I got on Twitter in 2023 was we had just hit a ceiling where it's like, I was the most successful entrepreneur I knew. It was like everybody came to me and my business partner for questions. And that isn't saying a
Mhm.
lot. We were in the mid seven figures. Like, this isn't a giant business, but it was like, I don't have any mentors who have done this further. I don't have these relationships. And Twitter not only removes some of the, oh, wow, there's other people doing this, but it also gave me access to people many rungs up the ladder ahead of me that have just been super valuable resources and relationships. I mean, it's been great.
Also, before we kind of continue on the talent, global talent, I wanted to circle back to something else you said. You mentioned that you were one of the fastest growing companies in the United States with basically property management, which is not a new business, not a new industry, not anything new. It's just like a business. But somehow you figured out how to optimize it in a way better than all those other property managers if you're getting that growth. Like, what was it that you did, or what was your insight that allowed that to happen? Or is it just your hustle? Are you just working harder than everybody else?
I do think we were working harder than everyone else. I think we were also smart to pick a market that worked well. But the two smart things I would say is and I have to give my business partner more credit of this than me, but we had a very good business model that lent itself to good growth. Well, we didn't know what like the term cash conversion cycle was or, any of these things, but we intentionally built our model where we actually kind of copied or at least used the concept of commercial real estate and applied it to residential. So we
Okay.
separated leasing fees and ongoing management fees, much lower ongoing management and then a much higher leasing fee. And the reason why that's relevant is if you're going to spend money on marketing and you only charge the standard, call it 10% or 8%, depending on where you are, it can take 6 or 8 or 9 or 12 months to get that profit back. Right. And so it becomes extremely cost laborious to grow. Whereas for us, when we had a leasing fee and because it was about 70% of new business, we could acquire a customer and within about 45 days, 60 days on the tail end, have all of the cash back. And so that gave us a foundation where we could spend money to grow, which is kind of the business's, that's the holy grail that most businesses look for is you could actually like, cool, I can just turn up the volume, spend 10 grand, get another 15 clients and go again. So that
You-
was
Yeah.
extremely important.
Yeah. Break even in 45 days means you just grow. Like it doesn't matter. You're getting the money back. You just go. That's tremendous. And what was it that gave you that insight to separate those two fees like commercial which no residential property management does that I was aware of? What drove that insight?
So number one, and I mean, you can see, I actually do read the books around me, but number one is they're the fastest growing property management company in history, which ended up flaming out pretty crazily, but it's called Renters Warehouse. We looked at their model and the way they had grown and we adopted that heavily. And then also examined basically like, again, we didn't have the understanding of the MBA terminology and nomenclature, but it was like you kind of understood the default benefits of a business that operate this way if you are an entrepreneur. So some was studying history, some was seeing how we could leverage into our growth. There's also a big component that plays into that is probably I should mention too for the home service folks. The nice part about charging a leasing fee like that is you can hire real estate agents. And so we would hire full-time real estate agents as independent contractors, and they would make commissions based on those tenant placement fees. And if you charge enough and you can do enough volume, they can make a very good, far more stable income than they would if they were
Right.
just trying to go out and sell houses. So that gave us another key advantage, which was half of our team that was working for us, they were only paid upon performance, right? We didn't carry this massive wage bill. So you can kind of think these few items helped build the business where we pieced it together, saw kind of how it was working. And then over the next, 8 or 9 or 10 years optimized.
So this is a really interesting business model, and for property management. And so, first question on this: did you start as a property manager and then move that business model in that direction after realizing some difficulty? Or did you get into property managing, seeing this little gap in the marketplace that would allow you to grow aggressively?
Yeah, so my business partner is the one who was starting it and had come from property management. At the time, I was building an insurance agency that was focused on real estate investment. So that's how we met. There was a time where my agency was one of the top insurers of real estate, like both house flipping and then small unit
Oh, cool.
buildings in San Diego. And we met because of that. And he had worked in another agency or another property management company, was getting ready to push off on his own, and had been doing research on that company, Renters Warehouse, and trying to figure out what model. And we basically we launched under that model, but after seeing what a traditional management company, understanding the insurance side and kind of how that plays in from growing a recurring business in this way. So some of it was luck and some of it was intelligence, and it's always hard in hindsight to figure out which one was which.
You know what? It doesn't matter really. Like you need both to succeed. I'm listening to this and I'm saying to myself, this is exactly the reason that just doing things the way it's always been done, or just kind of falling into doing things the standard way without really thinking through them. It's like, okay, this is the way it's done, so that's the way I'm going to do it. Kind of hold you back. Like, you found an unlock because you said, wait a minute, I think there may be a better way. Some of it you said was luck, but you did research. Like, you actually looked at what made other people successful. And I'm sure, and the crazy thing is, I'm sure a lot of your competitors saw you doing this and never changed either, because they did it the way they did it, right? Like,
Yeah, well, yeah, a comment I would put on that is, number one, you have to be careful, because I do think there's times, at least for me, maybe it's being a hyper rebel or a competitor, I almost want to do things differently for the sake of doing them differently. And I'll
yeah,
give you an example. When we started out, my business partner and I, we wanted to create the country's first national property management brand. Like, there's Keller Williams, Coldwell Banker, like Berkshire Hathaway, like there's dozens of national real estate brands. And so you think to your head, like, why isn't there one in property management when there isn't real estate sales? And we thought we could fill that. It turns out we were pretty well, after 6 offices across 2 states and 85 cities and 11 counties, we learned oh, some of this is, there are real guidelines and there are rules that are immutable. But I
yeah,
do think, you're touching on kind of the core is, if you don't have an idea about how to do it differently, I think you can probably build a business, but you'll never be able to create something truly durable. A competitive advantage is a unique idea, not just in, hey, we came up with a new patent, but it's a unique idea around a business that's already been done. And if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. So it's really important to be thinking through the destination you want to accomplish if you're going to go into any venture.
yeah. That's great. Like, I think people misplace that entrepreneurship and new concepts and new ideas don't have to be wholly new. You actually did nothing technically new. You just applied a unique concept to a different business case, right? Like,
Exactly.
and it unlocked a huge amount of growth and revenue, made customers happy, right? Like, clearly, like, they're not hiring you unless you do, and gave you a way to up front load cash, which is just such a massive value to any small business. It's really, I just talked to so many businesses that, they're doing really well, but they're going to tap out and they're not going to grow beyond what's possible, because they're just doing it the same way over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
didn't.
Well, and there's also, I mean, even just the stages in business require different behaviors, right? It's
Yeah.
not even within industries. It's there. Yeah. I think about it as there's a level for 6-figure entrepreneurs where, really the owner and a team of puppets is working. You get to 7 figures, and this is where everybody is talking about traction and EOS, and you're starting to figure out how to create an org chart and KPIs. But you go to 8 figures and beyond, it's a totally different form of management and leverage. And each level of business requires the company itself to adapt, usually the infrastructure within the company. But
Right.
yeah, every entrepreneur needs it. It's like you have to be willing to look and change where change is available.
That's cool. Yeah, and I think from what your rebel perspective, I think what I've heard and what I'll apply to you is if it ain't broke, break it. Right.
So, sometimes good advice, sometimes good advice.
Yeah, but always fun.
Always fun. Always fun.
So with that concept of, hey, apply new ideas to existing industry, did you do that same thing in your offshore recruiting? Because I mean, as you started this business 2023, it's been around. Like even the aggressive EA business, which is kind of the lead in this for small businesses, has been around for a decade. But what is it that you did that allowed you to take it in 2023 and step on the gas?
Yeah. So we actually, the first 6 or so months, we really were just bootstrapping. Well, not even bootstrapping, side hustling it. And it was just like, cool, if somebody needs a placement, we'll do that while we're figuring out the next thing. We, around the start of 2024, realized there was like a real business here. And we started having some long term thoughts about the industry and the direction that I'm happy to talk through with you as well. But we, this was the moment we broke things for the sake of breaking things and went with a new model. April 1st, 24, we launched the first that I'm aware of membership model for offshore. The existing marketplace at all levels has two solutions. You either get one-time recruitment or you get staffing. And both of them have pros and cons. One-time recruitment, this works for you in your company, but you're taking a big risk up front. You're paying a big fee. You don't get a lot of ongoing support. So you kind of have to be mature enough in your business to know what you want, be happy with it, make it work in the first 60 to 90 days. You're on your own. On the other hand, which applies primarily to, usually staffing ends up operating as like a business use case. So like staffing for accountants, staffing for marketers, staffing for medical billers, right? Like it's usually a specific niche. And the benefit is you get a lot of ongoing support and it's a little lower risk from a talent quality standpoint, but you're paying way more over time. Usually staffing fees are 1 to 2.5x the base salary, depending upon how much the company's gouging. And then the second bigger problem, in my opinion, is I call it the two boss problem. Like, who does this person really work for if they're sitting in a cubicle being walked around by the staffing agency head instead of under Pavago or, pick your company, whatever SMB they're working for? Who's really in charge? How integrated into the culture are they? Long story short, we thought there was a way to build something in between both, where you could have the best of recruitment. They work for you, but you get a lower cost staffing solution where we help with things like managing the payroll. We don't possess the money, but we do the administrative task. You get unlimited recruiting. The client gets to make the decision, just like in a recruitment process, as opposed to staffing. And so we call it frictionless hiring, where we're trying to take all the friction out of the process, but give a client a long-term relationship and ongoing support with the pros of each and hopefully the minimized downside of each at the same time.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I think so. It's different than the typical agency model, right? I think which is kind of like a blend. Because it's a different kind of blend. I mean, you're that person's dedicated to you, but you're basically paying the agency to pay them, and they're taking their upcharge. Sounds like you still do that, but you do it a little differently by opening up more assets by just being part of the system.
Sort of. So we do have an override model, but instead of 1 to 2.5x the salary cost, we charge 329 no matter what the salary is. So that it generally ends up being about 20%. So substantially
Okay.
lower cost. The other component for us that's really important and helpful is it's not just they're assigned to our clients. They actually work for them. If you hire us, the contract is between the client and the candidate. We're
Okay.
helping with some of the administrative ongoing burden and training and upskilling. We have a KPI dashboard they can launch. We've got an evaluation software they can use. But at the end of the day, our main job is to help our clients get top talent in their business and then retain that talent and achieve results. we've built a zero risk, or at least a very low risk environment compared to everyone else. We don't have annual contracts. You're not paying us $5,000 for this person up front. If you hire them for a day, you paid them one day, you paid us $329, and you're on your way.
Ah, wow. Okay. All right. So interesting model, makes it frictionless, allows businesses to be flexible with the time and people that they need, but still have some ownership and control. Now, but I think the key piece that I want to get into, which is not necessarily about your business, but like, how do small businesses who have their own issues training even people they see every day, right? Like, and managing people, how did they find success in the offshore model? That's actually, I think, the biggest piece, because I think it's not as seamless as just, I mean, sometimes it is. Sometimes you just hire somebody to do the work, but a lot of times there's some work that goes into it.
Yeah, I think you're touching on, first off, the companies that struggle the most are those that don't have any sort of a remote presence, right? Like, it's the companies that are still, everybody is in office all the time. Any company who's had even one employee work remote, work from home, start to kind of understand that this is just the same as that. The big thing that I think most people get wrong about offshore is it's only ever considered from the cheap perspective. It's low cost. And this is how you get back to that 1997 AT&T customer service. And honestly, most of my competitors on social media have perpetuated this, which is very stupid. And the main reason is they get a fee when they place. And so when that happens, the cheaper the person, the happier a client starts out. Oh my God, I can get somebody for $600 a month instead of $40,000 a year. And that's the wrong way to think about it. What offshore really is it is making exceptional talent accessible to small businesses. I call it the SMB catch 22. You get to some level, usually it's in the low seven figures, where you need like a super experienced A player to take you to the next level, but you can't afford that person until you get to the next level. Right. And every business owner who's got there knows exactly what I'm talking about. And the thing is that it's like adjusting your P&L by replacing a couple people for somebody cheaper. That isn't what's missing. You kind of know how to do that. You've got decent folks. It's you don't have that A player who can really level you up, like brings in a whole new set of experiences that you don't have as a leader. And offshore makes that accessible. And that's where a business owner who brings in that sort of person and is like, instead of thinking about the $600 a month hire, is thinking about the $1,500 a month killer. They're the ones who immediately are like, oh my God, this person worked at like Microsoft. I mean, I have a person on my team who literally worked at both IBM and Microsoft before working for us. She's in Costa Rica. She's an absolute killer. She came in and I didn't have to tell her what to do. She wasn't a puppet. She came in and told us what to do and made it happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's great. And you're also, so are you suggesting now, let's talk, most small businesses never hired offshore. Maybe, and a lot of them don't have it in remote because they're small businesses, or maybe some, they got their bookkeeper works from home 2 days a week, or actually just only needs to work 2 days a week, or whatever it is. And now they're realizing, okay, I need an assistant. And I think assistant's a place people start. And what you just said may be the wrong place, but let's just kind of like, that's where the people first think, I need an assistant. Let me go get one offshore. But you're not saying that. You're saying like, find your real talent that you need.
Absolutely. We use the tagline. I mean, you can see Charlie Munger behind me. We adopted his line. Wonderful talent at fair prices, not fair talent at wonderful prices. And that's obviously the Buffett and Munger advice to buying businesses. And it's the way you should think about talent. And it doesn't matter whether, we source for 75 roles from 40 plus countries, accounting, finance, marketing, sales, admin, like literally, we've never found an astronaut, but I bet we could, right? So it's like just about anything. I do think that there is a massive miss, especially for small business owners, for the executive assistant. The best hire I've ever made is my executive assistant. He's an absolute rock star. He had like 10 years of experience in these sorts of roles. He has a computer science degree, is way more technical than me. and has absolutely changed everything about my life because I think something business owners think is like, I need to know exactly what to give them for this to work. That's the problem is the VA craze, the Tim Ferriss concept made it seem like you're kind of dealing with a robot. It's
Yeah.
not. If you have a good person, you don't even need SOPs yet. You sit down, it's like, let's talk about what I'm trying to accomplish. Come back to me with some ideas. How do I pass this information over to you so you can take over? If you do that with somebody who's not good, who's like the minimum, the lowest cost salary you can find, it struggles. You do that with somebody with 10 years of experience who is making a great wage, is super bought in, like it just changes everything for obvious reasons, right? The same is true for an onshore in-office hire. It's
For
just
sure.
usually you can't afford them.
Yeah, I mean, I think when people are looking, I mean, I've been guilty. The first time I actually moved to offshore was about 8 years ago, right? And I did exactly the wrong way that you're talking about. Is I wanted someone dirt cheap, assume they're going to be from the Philippines. It was $4 to $5 an hour, and if I didn't tell them exactly what to do, it didn't work. And I am not always great at telling people exactly what to do. I'm a little bit more up here. So it failed. I ended up spending a few $1,000 and whatever. It was not like a huge loss, but it caused me to kind of rethink how this goes. What you're describing is exactly my experience. I'm sure that half the people out there have done it, have done exactly that.
Usually on the second hire, right? If they get there. And that's the big risk is what you end up coming into is like, for us, we were the first ones online to really start talking about hire A players. If you look, whether you're looking at Steve Jobs or Brad Jacobs or Warren Buffett and Charlie, like you could list any entrepreneurs ever out of business, had a book written about them, anyone. And they all agree on one thing. They don't all agree on luxury or low cost. They don't all agree on, expand or centralize. They agree on one thing. Talent is everything. And it makes sense, right? Talent is the one who comes up with the ideas. Talent is the one who builds the system. Talent is all of it comes down to the ultimate governor on the engine of a company is their talent. And this is the problem in SMBs and this is why we're building not just, hey, we're recruiters for you. We help you find great people, but you actually need a system because most small business owners, they're too burnt out. They don't quite have the confidence to fire the B or C player, usually C player. They're like, dude, Nancy in accounting knows that Michael, her bookkeeper, isn't good enough, but Nancy's not a good hirer. She gets 200 resumes from Indeed. She doesn't know who to pick. Okay. And next thing you know, Michael, who should have been out months ago, is still here at the company,
Yeah.
screwing around, limiting the business. We're trying to not just go get great people at great prices, but actually create the system where it's like, if somebody's not good, say goodbye. It's not undignified, right? It's just create a mechanism where you can actually view your people like a professional sports team. What does Steve Kerr with the Warriors do if somebody's not performing? He sends them down to the D League and brings someone else in the next transfer window. That's how a business owner should run. And we're trying to facilitate that with our solution.
Now, is your system just offshore? Because it sounds like it can apply to people who are working in the US too.
We are early to that conversation. We currently only do offshore, but we have a belief that offshore and remote are fundamentally the same thing. And we see a pathway to potentially being that solution in the US. We are targeting offshore first. A, it's less regulated. There's just less risk. But B, I think it is the faster growing opportunity. But you probably were touching on the fact that I think that hiring is broken everywhere in the world, and we're setting out to fix it.
Yeah, I think hiring is broken, and that's a whole bigger conversation. Because I think, but you know what, hiring is broken. But I think one of the big reasons hiring is broken is one of my old professors wrote this book, and what was his name? He basically said that companies hire with parameters that are either basically not realistic, not applicable, or don't allow them to get the talent that they need because they're looking for they're set up, they've drawn a box, and unless the person ends up in the box, they're not going to hire them. The problem is the box only exists in Fantasyland, and especially because it's for larger companies, especially you're dealing with an HR person, or even if you're a smaller company, you don't know how to hire, and as a result, all the people that could excel don't get looked at unless they check every box. This happens in government too. Government fails at hiring the proper people because it's simply just reading a resume looking for keywords, and those keywords are never the right words to actually predict success. I don't know. That's a different tangent, but happy to get your comments on it.
Well, I can go pretty deep on this topic because we think about this one every day.
Okay, let's go. Let's do it.
So the very first problem that you just talked about really comes down to the needle in the haystack. So every company runs a hiring, recruiting process, whatever you want to call it, whether they use a vendor or not. And the first thing they do is they post it to some marketplace. In the US, it's most commonly Indeed, but Monster, ZipRecruiter, whatever. You post to a marketplace and everybody thinks they're winning when they get more resumes in. Okay. But actually, for the person doing the hiring, that sucks. You don't want 400 resumes for this job. Even if you're using the AI tool, whatever, it doesn't screen in any way to give you true insight of who's going to be effective. Okay. So that's the first problem. It's a needle in the haystack. You get 400 people. How do you find the 8 worth talking to? We have built a solution for that internally that is extremely well trained. Our talent pool has, about 250,000 people, and we're getting about 1,500 new people a day to actively posted jobs. These aren't being scraped from the internet. And so we're able to tell our team, this is the top 10%. These are who you need to talk to. Okay. When you solve that problem, that at its core is almost the entire issue with hiring. But when you solve that problem, and in the second moment, define the behaviors that you actually want someone, the characteristics. We all think of it as skill set. Skill set is the easiest thing to find. So we have an 8-step scorecard that we use. It's things like grit, reliability, right? The sort of things that say, honestly, if we're sure that, that first step we catch skill set, now our job is to determine, do they meet these other standards that are high probability of success? Then you have to go through and kind of refine that group. But when you've removed the 90%, now you actually have the bandwidth to go deep on those remaining 10%. That then leads to if you want to go through the real, the way the Googles and the True Fortune 100s do it, and they're using the latest research around all of this, usually you need a multi-interview process or somebody reviewing an interview and then 2 objective from non-connected parties review of whether this person meets clearly defined kind of cultural standards, right? Then you can hire. Now, here's the other problem though. This is where the bigger piece that no one talks about, that the issue truly lies. This is like our government, where you pass a law and there's no expiration. So we just end up with infinitely more legislation. Almost all companies bring someone in and then never let them go. It's too much risk. You're too worried about getting sued. You've got okay. There are not clear parameters and a clear mechanism to say goodbye to underperformers. That's as simple as you don't have KPIs. You're not doing quarterly evaluations. Dude, I've been a very busy small business owner. I get it. So the first thing is you need simple tools that do the job. You don't need the $10,000 drill. You just need a screwdriver. But once you have that, now you need to create an actual solution that allows people to leave. And this one, I'll touch on the last thing because I know I'm taking up all the oxygen in the room, but this one is really important. The main reason why people don't get fired is not because they don't have skill set or not because it's not measured. It's because there is a personal relationship and whoever's in charge feels like an asshole letting go of someone they know. And so we recommend for our clients, if you're firing someone for cause, fire them for cause. But if you're firing them because they're not quite good enough, we call it a gentle off ramp. So for our internal team offshore, we turn their 2 weeks of pay into at least 2 months if we're firing them just because we don't think they can get us to the next level. We literally, you get your same pay for the next 2 months. Take a vacation if you want, chill out, spend some time with your family. We'll do everything in our power to help you get hired. And what does it do? The managers in my company are now like, oh, I'm not an ass. This is nice. They get it. They're having a soft landing. It's all going to work. Cool. And everybody's comfortable. And it's like, it's not personal, right? And if you look again to a sports team, it's like a coach has to coach the player. Yeah, you don't want to be a jerk to the person, but when your job's on the line, like a professional coach, all of a sudden saying goodbye to the underperformer is totally normal. We need to normalize recycling bad talent out of the organization. Anyways, long-winded.
That's pretty interesting, because I think people do have a really hard time firing, because part of that though is also back to the beginning of how people get hired, because that process is so difficult to actually parse who that. I mean, part of the problem is figuring out who that 10% that you should look at is really hard, and I think most people, a lot of hiring, they actually parse out to get down to 10% numbers, but it probably gets rid of probably the 10% they should be looking at too. Right?
It's very true. Very true.
Very true. So what they default to is, who referred somebody to this position that I know? So I trust that person to give me a good hire, even though it didn't make any difference. So it's basically just has to do nothing about process. Just, I'm going to trust Joe. Joe said I should hire Emily. Let me hire Emily.
They always easy button it. And I don't blame anyone. Nancy,
I don't either.
Nancy in accounting who needs to fire Michael, the bookkeeper. I don't blame her. She's like, dude, I'm busy. It's almost tax season. And I've got an accounts receivable blowing up. My boss is going to kill me and I need to let go of Michael. And she's got 400 resumes. What does she pick? She spends 2 minutes. Humans are terrible at this. Like, this guy looks good. Cool. Take him. Oh, is that great? Or, okay, Susie next door in HR. Do you know anyone who is a bookkeeper? Well, yeah, my cousin's a good bookkeeper. And it's easy button. It's because hiring's a nightmare.
But then that easy button is part of what makes firing a nightmare. Because, oh shit, I just hired this person's cousin, and now I got to let him go. So I'm going to piss off 2 people.
Oh, Lord. Absolutely. And that's why clear rules around this, like, we look at the bureaucracy that comes in at big companies and we think of it as like, oh, it's so stuffy. And it's like, there's a reason for these freaking rules. They don't add them for nothing. That doesn't mean they should be enforced the way they are. But like, there's a reason why there's clear, rigid boundaries in larger companies, because they figured this out. But I'll tell you, if there's one thing your listeners could take away to try, and it will change everything, because it'll allow them to trim the fat, is stop thinking I'm firing someone. Start thinking I'm laying them off because they won't get me to the next level. And as such, I'm expanding their severance. And this is all you have to do. Give them 2 months of pay instead of whatever they were entitled to before, but pay them just on their normal pay cycle. You don't have to come up with an extra 20 grand or 15 grand right now. You still pay them. You get the drop off in payroll in 2 months. But if they go bad, they badmouth the company, try and do anything squirrely, you can always cut that off, right? So it encourages good behavior. And I swear to you, the person who's let go will come back and thank them, because they're like, oh my God, you gave me a month off before I need to start my job search if I want, or I get extra pay. Like, this was such a blessing. I get it. It wasn't working out as well as we wanted. Like, thank you. And now a leader in a company, in a small business especially, they will actually feel good. And they will feel comfortable making a hard decision that before was like, well, I'm going to walk in and, if it's a bad day, that person's going to come out crying and I'm going to need to go down to the bar at 3 p.m. and try and forget my troubles. This is a way to make it positive.
And it's also a way to make it sooner. So I think what you're also happening is, when you're waiting, the small business owners getting frustrated. The person knows that they're frustrated. It starts getting animosity. And when the firing happens in the context of a blow up, and it's a firing in that point, it's not a layoff with the structuring. So I think you're trying to say, is this, make this easy, make it fast, and make it can be, I'm not going to say positive for everybody, but not an absolute negative for everybody.
Exactly. Right? Be human. It's dignity and humanity in the process. Like, what would you want if you're getting let go from your boss? Like, it sucks. But if it's like, hey, I'm going to keep paying you for 2 months. Thanks for all your hard work. It's not personal. We're just making a different decision. That 2 months of pay, it's like, you don't have to go back to your wife tomorrow and be like, well, better get work. It's like, you can be like, hey, this sucked, but we can be patient. I can be considered and measured about my next opportunity and go from there.
That I think the other side part of this though is that when there's people who are hired, one thing a lot of small businesses fail to do is properly train that person after hiring so that the failure is almost inevitable. And, you know, is your platform doing anything about that, or how do you think about that generally?
Yeah, so we do some base level training internally. We're in the process of trying to build out our own, and now we're working on a partnership with some of the big course platforms. So it'll be curated courses based on specific skill sets, marketing, management, accounting. And so we do some of that. We also give tools around like KPI management and, task completion. So that way this person isn't coming in with nothing. If a client doesn't have a system for this, they can at least use our templates to build it out.
I think you should also put a training together called How to Onboard, which is taken
We
by the
do.
people who are, you do.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
What does that look like? What does that look like? Because I think that's actually one of the biggest problems is onboarding goes south quick or actually doesn't happen.
Yeah. So it's a mixture of materials as well as a video. And even more than that, we actually just pretty well do it for them now. So we make
Okay.
sure all the logins are built out and all of that stuff set up. We're there for the first day. We make sure that all the accesses are complete. But then it's insights around, like, for example, during the recruiting process, we're offering those tools out, and our account managers are actually helping clients. What are the KPIs? What is the meeting schedule? What are templates of how that should go? And, many of our clients are more established and totally capable of doing this themselves, and they have processes, but it does bridge the gap for anyone who doesn't have that and gives them, like, you know, at least a fighting chance of being able to bring this person in and be successful. But I will say one other thing. In my opinion, this conversation or this portion, it plays into the same issue of hiring for cheap or hiring for quality, right? The wonderful talent at fair prices conversation. If you bring in, this is just like in your office, you bring in a really low skill, low experience person, they need their handheld. Like, it'll work if they come in to McDonald's level of SOPs, right? It's like McDonald's could teach a chimpanzee to create a burger, right? Fold it, everything. And that's part of why they're successful. But most small
Right.
businesses aren't at that level. Whereas you bring in somebody who's like, no, I've built SOPs before. Sure, tell me what you want. They're asking the questions, and they're able to kind of come in where it's not this super rigid, clear, 50 checklist point. Like, instead, they're able to deal with that ambiguity, ask the right questions from a leader, and their experience and skill set gives them the chance of success without the business owner needing to hold their hand until the perfect solution's in place.
That sounds great. It's and that's what's mostly offsite. I mean, I'm thinking about this as a broader hiring question though. Like because small businesses have this problem, like especially in home services integrators, people that we are working with, they're just always running and doing the business that they tend to want someone that's plug and play, and they're annoyed when they're not, even if that person is capable of doing the work. They just need to be directed a little bit. And I think that can be exacerbated in an offshore environment, even worse if you're not prepared for that first couple days, right? It doesn't have to take that long.
No, 100%. I mean, in our business, I'll tell you, like, we invest a ton of time and energy into the first 90 days. Like, the reality is that the first 30 days are the most dangerous in terms of success or failure. For us, you get unlimited replacements on our hire. So we are very quick to tell a client, hey, we thought this was a great fit, but based on this support we're offering and this helping with onboarding and checking in with both sides, we're quick to say, I don't think this person's up to your standards. We want to find you someone new. We'll find a replacement before you let this person go, so you're not left holding a bag. But the first 30 days are most essential. By the end of the first 90 days, you're pretty much safe. I think that the key is the small business owner. It's the easy button problem, but in a different form. There's a lot of small business owners who think, or leaders who are like, I need help. And so they accept anyone with a pulse, but they actually haven't done the time, to think. I mean, if you're talking about integrators, it's like, I think of an integrator as a puzzle maker. It's like, wait, what if we move this person here? How can we get these puzzle pieces to fit with the dollars and the P&L and the execution of systems? And the problem is that if you don't think through it deeply, you just it's like, I need this perfect shape to work here. And instead it's like, well, actually, if you just move a couple things around, you need a circle, and circles are everywhere. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. So this has been a fantastic conversation, Parker. I think talent management for small businesses is one of the big things that prevents them becoming medium-sized businesses,
100%.
right? Like you don't have the people, you can't grow. But the flip side of that is you also have to be willing to invest in them at a certain level to make sure that they can succeed. I don't think so. And what you've actually provided with Pavago is a mechanism to iterate quickly with talent, find people you like and can work with, and accelerate their engagement with the company in a way that's lower risk, but also incredibly high ROI, right? Like that's what I'm hearing from you with Pavago. And you're allowed to be going a lot of different directions. I mean, that's very powerful if you're willing to accept that not everyone's going to be in your office.
It's, again, I'll go back to, I think that most of the more successful entrepreneurs should speak on this than me. You can't, I will pay someone $100 that's listening to your podcast. They can find an entrepreneur who got a biography written about them who doesn't say that getting the best people is your most important job as a leader. Like, it is the thing. It's said so often, it's hidden in plain sight. And it is, we have this thought, I think, when you hear about a big business, it's like, well, of course Google wants the best people. But it's like, no, it doesn't happen after you're big. It happens before you're big. It's the great people that get you up the ladder, right? It's the culture that you do now. And, you're alluding to it. It is the governor on the engine of a small business. It just is. We believe we have to hire somebody within 20 miles of our office so they can commute here. And the pool is small. All of a sudden the talent is low. We're stuck because not only do you gotta, it's like you got taxes and now you got risks and you don't want to say goodbye. And like you said, it's like they're usually referrals. All of these things are killing the entrepreneur's ability to be successful because, as I said, talent is before everything. It's talent that comes up with a new product, talent that comes up with a new marketing campaign, talent that builds a system. So I'll get off my soapbox, but we deeply believe in making talent accessible.
Yeah. And there's a lot more talent globally than there is next door, right? Like you might find that person, but I don't know. It's pretty hard. One thing I want to ask you. So did you grow up in San Diego?
I grew up in Santa Cruz, actually.
I grew up in Santa Cruz. Okay. All right, cool. Because you did business, but you moved down to San Diego, realized it's warmer. And so, you don't have to wear a wetsuit in June when you're in the water, or July, maybe June you do. All right. But Santa Cruz gets a little chilly.
Yeah, I was in San Diego for almost 10 years. That's where all my kids were born. And then we moved out here to Boise.
All right, cool. Parker, would you, any last thoughts about that? I think you just did a great find of this talent focus is critical. How can people find you? Tell us how to find Pavago and you and make sure people are following or reaching out.
Yeah, man, I really appreciate it, Brent. For Pavago, you can go to pavago.co. That's our website where you can see everything. For me, my Twitter, which is where I'm personally most active, is at Parker Cox. So my name with the first two letters switched. And on LinkedIn, I'm Parker Cox on there. The only final thing I'll say is we're in the next 60 days going to be officially launching a full-on platform. And this is where we think the future is going. So it's not just going to be a professional service, kind of one-on-one recruiting. We're going to be the first company in the space that actually has a mechanism where, almost imagine it like Airbnb. It's not a job board. You don't post your job and the new people are there. It's going to be, you come in and there is hundreds of vetted accountants or salespeople, thousands. I mean, we have 250,000 right now. And we think that's where this business really will change, not just for us, but for our clients, because then there's no friction even with the recruiter you're using. Now it's just a built out for you hiring and recruiting process to help level up. So I can leave it there, man.
That sounds great. Well, Parker, I really appreciate it. This has been an awesome conversation on a topic we haven't yet covered on the flywheel effect. And I think I'm going to maybe have you on next year. We can hear how that platform goes and how that's going to change people's businesses. It'd be great.
Happy to, man. Would love to.
So, hey, thanks for listening to The Flywheel Effect. If you enjoyed this episode, please give us a like, a follow, 5-star review, or most importantly, share it with someone who you think will find it valuable. And until next time, it's The Flywheel Effect. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for tuning in to The Flywheel Effect. Our journey through the intricate world of luxury home services continues to be fueled by your passion for excellence and innovation. If you found value in our conversations today, don't forget to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. More insights and resources. Visit us online at growwithvital.com. Until next time.